Good morning. This is your host, Michael J. Long, host of Michaels Libertarian Pizza Party. It's 10:04 a.m. and thank you for joining me. I appreciate it. Now, if you haven't already done so, if you haven't already subscribed, please consider subscribing to my channel so that you can be notified of any new videos and content that comes out. And thank you for all those who have. Please continue subscribing. I truly appreciate it. And so tomorrow I'm going to be interviewing someone, the chairman of the Columbian County Libertarian Party, William O'Donnell. So you're not going to want to miss that. Or I think it's William O'Donnell. But anyways, so yeah, please consider subscribing. Ever notice how? All right, now let's get back on track here. Ever notice how? For 200 years, because I've done some historical research on this, for practically 200 years, this country's been ruled by Democrats and Republicans. Let's keep that in consideration here. Democrats and Republicans for 200 years. So why are they still getting elected? Because here's the deal. They're still getting elected. Everybody seems to want to go for them. And so, and most other people don't vote because they think, this is not going to go well. We're going to get outvoted and this and that. So we're going to stay home and do nothing. Because most elections, and this is a historical fact, most elections at the presidential level in this country usually end out with about 45% of the vote, or 46, 48, somewhere around there. So that means that the Democrat candidate, whoever that may be, and the Republican candidate, they both get about 25% of the vote, 25% of the vote each, and then it's the independents that are swayed to vote for either one of the major parties. But the problem is that the Democrats and the Republicans have been in power for 200 years, and nothing has ever been done to reduce the size and scope of the government. Instead, the answer seems to be more government, more spending, more taxes, and on top of that, let's continue to print money out of thin air while lowering the interest rates. So I want to touch base on that, because I haven't touched base on this in a while. I know I would briefly mention it in most of my other videos. But the Federal Reserves, the IRS, the Federal Reserves, and of course I can make the notion that we need to abolish the IRS and then abolish the Federal Reserves and the printing presses. And here's why. Monetary banking is controlled. Well, look, here's the deal. The monetary banking is controlled by the federal government. They're printing money out of thin air via the Federal Reserves, and the IRS controls the tax rate and whatnot. So what they've been doing is printing money out of thin air. They keep printing more and more and more and more and more money. And as they're doing that, they're lowering the interest rates so that way the inflation doesn't go up. But the problem is, and any economist, especially those who've studied Austrian economics, would tell you this, you can only lower the interest rates so low. And then after that, you got to start increasing the interest rates. Now, when you do that, that causes hyperinflation. It also has been that's the bubble that we're in, because the interest rates are being lowered. Now when the interest rates are being lowered, but it's causing but when they're forced to increase the interest rates, then you're going to see even more hyperinflation on top of the fact that the dollar is already being devalued from it. It's not a good policy. And so that's the major reason. That's one of the major reasons why we should probably get rid of the Federal Reserves and the IRS. The other reason is if the federal government is making more money than it knows what to do with, and regardless of whether it's approved by Congress or not, what ends up happening? Well, we're going to have the NDAA because we have the money to fund it, and all these policies, all these government agencies that we really don't need. We're going to continue to bomb all these other countries. That's what the Democrats and the Republicans have been doing for years. Now, keep in mind, the Democrats and the Republicans have been in control of the federal government for 200 years, because for 200 years people have been electing them because they found ways to fool people into voting for them. And and so every time they get elected, the interest rates get lowered, and it can only be lowered so much. And I can guarantee you, when the economy begins to collapse, which I assure you is on its beginning axles of collapsing now, you're going to see let me just state, that's probably when the federal government is going to be forced to, make cuts, which they should already be doing as a means to avoid the Federal Reserves. So where do I stand on economic policy? Well, that's very simple. Abolish the IRS, abolish the Federal Reserves, and replace the federal income tax with the fair tax. All right? And some people may argue, well, the only way that'll work is if you make cuts and reduce the government. Well, that's doable. That's doable. We can do that. We can get rid of and abolish the FBI, the CIA, the NSA, the TSA, the ATF, the FAA, the FCC, and all these other federal government agencies that we don't need from A to Z. We can abolish them. We can, privatize at least partially the USPS. Even, of course, it would be unconstitutional to completely privatize it, but if we keep the rights to whoever owns the USPS, then it's doable and within the law and within the Constitution in that sense, because we would own the rights to that company. It's not like we would be fully privatizing it if we didn't own the rights, right? But these are discussions that we ought to have, and these are discussions that we're not having, because think about it. All the years Donald Trump, Republicans, been president, we stayed in Afghanistan. Mind you, I give him credit for at least attempting to withdraw, but he backed down on that deal, and now he's going after Biden for potential for pulling out of Afghanistan. But Liz Wheeler and all these people on One America News didn't bother to tell you that Trump tried to work with the Taliban and get a peace deal for hopes of an earlier withdrawal. She didn't tell you that, apparently. But I think it's been a long time coming. I think we should also get the troops out of Iraq and stop bombing Yemen and get rid of the sanctions on Cuba and Libya and all that, and we haven't gotten there yet. So you're not going to want to miss tomorrow's episode, because this is going to be about how we elect the libertarians at the local level and what's going on in the Columbia County Libertarian Party and how much progress they're making with that. So the bottom line is, we need libertarians probably more than ever. More than ever. So if you haven't already done so, as I've stated in the beginning of this video, please consider subscribing, because it really, really matters. And hopefully I'll make more. I'm going to hope to make more videos like this in the future, because I'm telling you, I had a lot of thoughts about doing a video last night, but it was late at night, and I was like, I don't want to do it. So I'll try and make more solo videos going forward. If I have because I'm telling you, I was really in thought about this last night. Because I've noticed that the Democrats and the Republicans have been, like I said, stated in the beginning of this video, been in power for 200 years. And for 200 years, we've been going to war. We've been bombing other countries. At least in recent memory, we've been bombing other countries. We've been putting sanctions and tariffs and, all these bad policies on all these countries. And they seem to continue, regardless of whether it's a Democrat or a Republican. And I notice the Republicans and the conservatives, they seem to be treating China, because I've had thoughts about this too, as the big bad enemy. Oh, it's the communist Chinese, this, that, and the third. They may not be a perfect country, but neither are we. And so think about it. The argument from the right is, well, we shouldn't trade with China because they have bad trade policies, or the way they treat their people, or this, that, and the other thing. Or they're authoritarian, or they're a communist country, or this and that. But Israel is allowed to take over certain parts of countries, and they're sanctioned by us, meaning we allow them and fund them and their operations to do all that. Richard Medhurst, if you ever get the chance to subscribe to his channel, mentioned a lot of that. But I try not to, I try to come up with solutions to how we can fix the problems that are being faced in this country. And so let me know on your feed. Let me know. Give me some feedback. Let me know let me hear from you guys what you guys, with some solutions. I may not agree with it all, but, but these are discussions that we ought to have. So I'm Michael J. Long, and thank you for joining me. I truly and sincerely appreciate it.